Welcome to the fourth episode of the Infinite Potential Podcast. And today we have Greg Gurenlian, or Greg Beast on Instagram. He's an ex-professional lacrosse player and one of the best coaches in the industry now. Sit back, relax.
This is like a great use of space.
Is this one of ours?
Yeah, dude, it's all
Yeah,
you
gotta
guys.
get him another one that's not broken.
Yeah. I mean, they've been put through the ringer. I've snapped a couple of those.
That's what I'm talking about.
I have whole sets in the car. I got two.
Yeah.
So we can give one of those.
Say less. We'll get you some freshies.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But no, that's sick. You making up the Baltimore Sense summer any?
You know what's funny is I have 3 coaches that work for me in Maryland now. So like my requirement to be down there is like 0. So I'd have to really like make some excuse
Yeah, to
to
go
get
out.
down there.
Not
And
just
even if I go
American.
down there, as soon as I schedule something, like coaches are like, oh, like, you know, you're taking away from the guys that are coming up. I'm like, all right. So it's like once or twice a year now. It used to be once every month, which was great.
Yeah. We'll make it once a month when the Merritt pool's open, and then
Yeah.
maybe once or twice a year.
I might come down in June. I'm absolutely going to come down. I mean, I have a free membership to Merritt. I might as well use it for the pool.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we had a whole day up there last year.
Yeah.
That was fun.
And it was I think it was during the wildfires too. It was
Yeah,
like
it
the
was-
green
yeah,
hue
everything
in the
was-
sky, and we were still just getting wild in the pool.
Yeah, it's like we've been inside because the air conditioned for so long. We live in a city; it's already bad. Let's just go outside.
Let's just fucking go.
Yeah, that's fun. That was cool.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk about whatever you guys want, man.
No,
Yeah.
I wanted to do an introduction first. So, you played college, Penn State,
Mhm.
and then went on to multiple teams in the PLL or the MLL. and
Yeah,
then you
I
played
mean, mostly,
in the PLL.
yeah, I played for 3 teams in the MLL, but mostly the Lizards.
Okay.
New York. I played pro for 14 years, and then I played for Team USA for 10. And yeah, it was awesome.
And what kind of got you into lacrosse? I guess as a kid, or like what like got that started, and when did you realize it was something you wanted to kind of like shape your life around?
So I'm from Springfield, Delaware County, in PA,
Mhm.
and lacrosse is tops there. It's like lacrosse and wrestling is huge in that area.
Okay.
And when I was growing up, everyone knew the lacrosse team was the cool kids, but I never played until I got to high school. So once I got to high school, I begged my parents. I'm like, look, like, please let me play this sport because all the cool kids are playing varsity. It was literally because I wanted to be cool. It didn't work. So I played, but I never played a team sport where you could hit. Like I did wrestling and karate growing up, but I never played football or anything. So I sucked at catching and throwing, and all I did was run around the field and try to hit people. Whenever the ball's on the ground, I tried to ear hole everybody. And the older guys would make fun of me, so they'd be yelling like during the JV games, we'd go "Beast" from like the sideline and shit. And it was all a joke because I weighed like, I don't know, like 150 pounds soaking wet. I graduated high school at 170. Like I wasn't a big kid, so I got that nickname like as a joke. And then my best friend George, who got me into lacrosse, started calling me Greg Beast, and that's where that name came from.
Okay.
So like when people meet me and they're like, "Oh, this guy calls himself Beast," it's like, no, I didn't like wake up my sophomore year of college and be like,
It manifested itself.
I weigh 200 pounds now, so
Yeah.
it's Beast.
It's so funny. That's kind of like the nickname Beast and how they came with like I see like on the shirt and like be a beast. That mindset was a lot of people would just call me like it's how I would play. I was smaller, and that was one of the turn off for some of the recruiting.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, well, I can't control like how tall I can get, but I can control how strong I get, how fast, how explosive. And ever since like a kid, they were just like calling me like a beast or just like he's like, be careful, he's gonna go crazy out there.
Well, you know what's funny when you say that? It's like that's why I fell in love with strength conditioning, because growing up, like my parents were awesome, but they were super like conservative and controlling. They were afraid to let me do anything.
Yep.
And growing up, I realized, you know, your parents, your older siblings maybe, your aunts, your uncles, your teachers, your coaches, everybody's telling you what to do. They all have control over you. You have complete control over your body, what you do with it.
Yep.
So if you want to be shredded, you can be shredded. Want to be jacked, you can be jacked. Like you can want to be a crazy long distance runner, you can literally just start running long distance one day and become a long distance runner. And that understanding when I was a freshman in high school is what really made me fall in love with it. So that's where the strength training really began, this obsession of like, I can do whatever I want with this thing.
Yeah.
And no one, that was like my freedom. Being in the gym was like my zen because I could do whatever I wanted with my body. So that's where it came from.
That
Isn't
iron
that
therapy,
That's
yeah.
funny. That's exactly how my upbringing was. I never touched the weight until after high school. It was never rooted in sport for me, but like even like eating protein powder, like mom thought that was drugs.
Yeah,
Well,
everything is steroids.
I had to have
Steroids.
I had to have such a long conversation, like bring out the science and everything about it. Be like, why isn't this this in your food, mom?
Yeah,
Like,
dude, everything is steroids. And even like if you look at it now, like on Instagram, it's like that guy gained 5 pounds in 2 years. Trend.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, dude, this is creatine. It's 5 grams a day, and it's what every single athlete or human being at this point should be taking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was the same way, dude. Getting supplements. My first job when I was in college, I used to stay up at Penn State year round, and I would work during the summer to make extra money. And I was working at a GNC in the mall.
Yeah, we're the same.
So GNC, I was a vitamin shop guy.
Yeah, and I would sit there all lonely as shit in the Nittany Mall on Sundays, and everyone, you see that guy in GNC. Everyone walks past. I'm like, I don't really need protein today.
Yeah.
It's only the guys who are absolute neats that have to pick it up that day for the week that would come in, and I would every 2 weeks I'd take my check and then I would just redeposit in
It's right in the GNC,
Yes.
man. Test everything out.
And like I was like NO2. I've been reading articles on this for 3 months. I can't wait to buy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like that was my whole thing. I got fired from that job because I sucked ass.
Really?
Oh, they're like, okay, behind the case here is a bunch of drinks, and these drinks are only for people that that need to cleanse their body. If they mention that they have to pass a drug test,
Yeah, you
absolutely.
can't say it because
And
they'll secret shop you.
I was like, these are on commission, right? Okay. The guy comes in, he's like, I got to pass the drug test. All right, let me get the key.
Take 2.
I screwed the register up all the time. I cost that poor store so much money.
I brought change in my pocket because I couldn't keep the register straight, so I was always off 25 cents
Yeah.
in there, and I'd be like, "That's this." So
Yeah.
I talked to my manager about that again. Here's a quarter.
Dude, manager comes in one day, he's like, I don't know how to tell you this, but like, he's like, we have a regional manager comes into the stores every once in a while just to see like how you guys are doing. He didn't even ask him for a gold card. I'm like, I didn't.
Yeah.
He's
Not at
like,
all.
yeah, we have to fire you. I'm like, that's fine. I'll be in here.
Set me free.
I'll be in here in 5 days buying more protein.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
I'll find another job.
Yeah.
I only got
Not
this
cut out
job
for sales.
for the discount. You know,
Yeah.
I'm only here to get the stuff that I want to have. That's it.
Exactly.
With those drug tests that are in there, they would send secret shoppers in,
Yeah.
and they would say drug test. And I had coworkers get fired because they got secret shops, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's this stuff over here." And they'd be like, they come right back in the store after leaving with it and be like, "Sorry, man, you gotta go."
If you don't like us doing that, pay us $10 more an hour and don't make this commission.
And don't tell us that that's what it's for, because they taught you that that's what it's for, like your first day.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
This is what it's for, but you cannot talk about what it's for.
Aren't
Anybody
you in
who
the
asks
business
for
to
it-
help people?
Yeah.
That's how I got into. I love that job. I saw it as a sales job, so I took everything so I could tell people I took it, and then I would write out the workout and diet program so they keep coming back every month, and I'd get that commission
Nice.
hit every
You're
single
basically
month.
just like personal training. You were
Exactly.
online personal trainer.
That's how I got
Yeah.
started. Yep.
Brilliant.
That's how I got started. It was so funny. But yeah, no, GNC was a huge way that I got into it. But supplements are awesome.
Yeah.
And it was more of the taboo that made me probably love it more than anything else because my parents
Yeah.
had such a reaction to it. So I was like,
Well,
yeah, I'm gonna take everything.
Yeah, it's like with my parents they're a little similar in the sense like oh dude, you gotta be careful with the supplements that you're thinking about taking.
Which they're not wrong. They're
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Wrong.
So I didn't really take much when I was playing college, other than like protein, BCAAs, creatine,
Yeah.
fish oil, and then different vitamins. It was after that I was like, all right, I'm super excited to dive into what all of these supplements are.
Yeah.
And I started to research all of the different ingredients.
Yeah.
And then from then, I ordered all individual powders. So
Started mixing them yourself.
yeah, everybody called like my garage. I had a whole little setup. It was like
Beakers
breaking
and
down.
shit. Nice.
You know? And it's I would have my 3 blender bottles. I would make pre, intra, post. I would have all of these different things, and I would try different formulas based on what I wanted to try to experience. If like, all right, I really want to focus on like how big I can get during this cycle. Like, let's focus on the nutrients around that. Obviously, the training and all of that, and then like how fast, how explosive, and I would change all this stuff. And that's ultimately kind of what led me down starting my business originally around nutrition and supplements. And it was going to be more of an algorithm based on all of these different factors that I researched and created to create customized individual nutrient protocols. And I was working with a custom compounding pharmacy in Maryland, Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
And we were going to try to roll this out to the public. This was maybe guess, eight or so years ago.
10.
10, yeah.
That's when we met. My first bodybuilding show.
And what I wanted to do at the time was just we were so far from being able to execute in a cost-efficient way.
Oh yeah.
And then I was like, all right, well, instead of like doing this, and I'll just start with a protein that I know I like based on all the stuff that I've made. I'll just make my own.
Mhm.
Start there, and that's really what got me into the supplement, the nutritional side of things on a much deeper level.
Yeah, I remember one of the first things you had to do at Penn State was you had to go see the sports nutritionist and break down what's legal and what's not.
Yeah.
And they give you this NCAA handbook, and you're just like, okay, I can have 20 grams of protein. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And that's where you learn, like, okay, yeah, creatine is, even then, like, creatine was pretty new.
Yeah.
And that was back when, like, the OG creatines where you had to preload it for 4 days, and then you get a little puffy. That everyone was walking around with the gallons of water at a time.
The kidney thing was still out there.
Yeah. And, you could take, like, they're allowed to give you 20 grams of protein after workout, but then they can't give you more because it's not recovery. Now it's technically a supplement. And it's Big Ten, so you're getting piss tested every couple weeks. You know?
Yeah.
And at the time, they put me on 10,000 calories a day at Penn State. So I was gaining weight while everybody else, back then in the early 2000s, lacrosse players weren't totally sold on strength training. So a lot of them were still trying to ditch out, and pace through their workouts. While I was one of the meats who was in there. And they'd be like, hey, random drug test. And it was like a running joke. It's like, random drug test, Greg.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm the only one who's gaining 10 pounds a year here.
Yeah.
So the P-Man and I knew each other real well.
Yes. My sophomore, my junior and senior year, I got selected. My coach called me and jokingly, he's like, all right, Stu, try to give us a clean one here. Knowing, like, all right, if there's anybody who's going to get 10, let's meet him. Is great.
That's the guy who actually wants to
work out. Yeah, exactly. Someone who's going to be clean, so it's perfect. And it was funny because that was the same kind of joke. I was like, oh, Stoop, I see you're in here too. I was like, yeah.
Yeah, it was really funny. Plus, like, in high school, especially in college, I was so straight edge. Like, I was like, I'm the perfect candidate for the test, so it's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Big Ten took it real seriously. And on Team USA, they would literally, they'd be like, ATF, open up, boom, boom. You'd be on a training weekend out of nowhere, and they just come into your hotel room. You gotta pee, like, right away. The guy's, like, staring at you. You're like, dude, I was built for this. Yeah. It's all good.
Literally, pun intended, built for it.
Right.
But yeah, man, they took that seriously.
The team put you on 10,000 calories a day of food?
Yeah, Chris Clark, head nutritionist at Penn State. His first year was 6,000, and then 8,000 my sophomore, and then 10,000.
Okay.
I was walking around, I had honey. I was walking around with honey at all times, squirting in my mouth, grossing people out in class. Trail mix, you had to do 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 2 dinners, chocolate milk and orange juice with every single meal. Oh yeah.
My teachers would always make comments because I'd always have food, no matter what.
Yeah.
With me I started getting into the nutrition in high school, and we would have like free periods, and so in one of the rooms that I had my free period, my teacher would always kind of like ask questions like, I always see you eating.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, like I
panic when when I'm not within arm's reach of a snack.
Yeah.
I get real freaked out. Like when you're bulking, how many are you putting away?
At the height of my bodybuilding career, it was somewhere between like 6,500 and 8,000 calories a day.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, but I was very gradual. I put on weight super easy.
Okay.
So I can gain weight off of a little bit of calories. I have to eat virtually nothing to go into a bodybuilding show and do all of the cardio in the world. So that's my body type. So I'm not a hard gainer. I put on muscle very fast, but also don't stay lean very easy.
Okay.
But yeah, but also like I almost had to hide it from I have a golf background, so I had to hide it from my coaches. I was putting on weight, and they'd be like, "You have to stop lifting weights. You have to do all this stuff. You're gonna lose your distance. You're gonna lose your flexibility. You're gonna lose everything else." Yeah. And like that's a root of like how I got into because I would program for myself. There's nothing out there for golf really. That's any type of good to stay mobile and get big because I loved bodybuilding. Yeah. And that was completely separate from golf, but then ended up having me hit the ball so much farther than everybody else because I can generate so much more power from the ground than everybody else. But yeah, I never really had to do that. I fast most of the time now, and still maintain 260 pounds pretty easy. But if I want to lose weight, that makes my life a lot easier because I have to drop to like 2,000 calories.
So you're like an athletic endomorph.
Yeah.
Like perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. What?
It's interesting about the mobility thing because it's crazy how I think the concept that people have in their heads, especially when they're not educated about stuff, is they look at guys and they go, okay, that guy's so big he can't touch his shoulder blades, right? So that just means that that's automatically going to happen.
It's like, I want to be able to do this, and I can grab my hands behind my back.
Yeah, because you put effort into doing that.
Yeah.
Like for me, I remember my dad was always like, because I told him, I was like, I want to start doing Olympic lifting and whatever, and he's like, oh, I can't do that. He's like, crush your spine. He's like, look at all these guys in Olympics, they're all short. And so when I'm little, I'm like, oh, okay. And then I go and take kinesiology. I come back in college. I'm like, actually, Dad. I'm like, these guys just happen to be the best because they're shorter.
Yeah.
And it helps them.
It gives them more leverage.
They didn't start at 6'3" and now they're 5'8". Because they're doing snatches.
They don't. Yeah, it doesn't stunt your growth. They're going to be that tall.
That was like that first moment of my life where I was like, oh my god, my dad doesn't know everything.
Yes.
Shit. What else doesn't he know?
Yeah.
No, fitness teaches you that faster than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
With parents, they don't know how to eat. They don't know how to work out.
Yeah, but then you end up being at all the family cookouts. You're just sitting there with a line of like aunts and uncles, like, you know, like my back's bothering me. He's like, I'm not a doctor, guys. Like, I love all of you, but I think you should go talk to your doctors.
You're not going to listen to me if I tell you to do something anyway because you're family.
It's like you're gonna then hear what I say and then have some kind of like an excuse as to why.
100%.
And then like come back because like, oh, I don't want to be like you.
Yeah, it's like, why are we doing this at Thanksgiving? And Alice? You're not going to start doing sprint intervals.
It's like, why are you? Why are you eating different than all of us?
Yeah.
I remember my first bodybuilding show. I went home and I was met by my grandmother going, "You look awful." I was like, "It's the best I've ever looked, man." Like, it's literally the best I've ever looked in my eyes. And
dude,
I met with, "You look awful."
This is the best I've ever looked.
Yeah, you should eat more. All this stuff, and I'm like, I work so hard for this.
I know.
This is why I don't come home very often.
It's always the moms and the grandma. It's always the moms and grandmas like, "Oh my god, we gotta get him food."
I know. Every time I've ever had like a surgery or something, and I've had to like lay off weight, like heavy weights for a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, there'd be like at my knee surgery, I lost a few pounds because I couldn't put a lot of weight on my left leg yet. And every single time, my mother-in-law's, "You look great. You look a lot, but you know, you don't have all this." And I'm just sitting here like, you know what? I'm the only person around here who's in shape.
I was like, good.
I'm gonna start making comments about you guys. How about that?
Yeah, it's like I look great because I'm starting to look more like maybe a potential reasonable goal that you might be able to one day get to. So because you can quantify it for yourself, it's great.
Well, it's funny because they always mean it as a compliment, but you're sitting here going, you don't know, like, and like for me, really, training's never really been about aesthetics. It's always been about performance.
Yeah.
But I've always like when I was a strength coach, I would tell clients who come in, especially Gen Pop, I'd be like, look, you are focused on the mirror. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
My job is to make you focus on the numbers. So then you get to see what you want in the mirror. Because if you're looking at the mirror every day, you're going to get annoyed. But if you see your weights going up every single week or your rest periods going down, you're going to get jacked up to come in here every day. And then 4 weeks from now, you're going to have your mirror moan and be like, holy shit, then I can't keep you out of here.
Yeah.
So for me, aesthetically, training, I always try to train more like a safety, right? And I need to be explosive, I need to be powerful and strong, and I needed to have quick bursts of energy. And if you train like that, you're going to look decent. So like for me, it was always like, there was never a thought of like I have to put on size or to put on weight. It was just like, dude, I just want to be strong as hell.
Yeah.
And I want to beat my numbers when I'm doing my Olympic lifts and stuff. So you're going to gain size when you do that shit. And I think, you know, for a lot of people who are training, you know, a lot of people that I talk to, especially in the figure competitor or the bodybuilding world, because it's always about aesthetics, people have this thought process that training has to be about that. And I think they set themselves up for failure when it's like, dude, look, if you want to look great, that's great. Just do anything, really. If you do anything, your body's going to adapt.
Look better,
all training is tricking your body into evolution, right?
Yeah.
Your body doesn't know you're not running from a tiger. It doesn't give a shit that you're doing, you know, if you're doing a back squat or front squat or any of that shit. It just knows that it has a stimulus, and it better thicken up and get stronger or else it's screwed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But even in bodybuilding, right? So lifting weights is their game time. Right.
Yeah.
Not getting on stage or anything like that, but you still look at the key parts of their day and their training. It's the same thing that you do for performance. It's bench press, it's back squats, front squats, deadlifts.
That's why I hate sport-specific training. I hate that. I hate that term.
Because
we can all benefit from the same exact shit.
Well, we work with hockey players, lacrosse players, baseball players, golfers, and everybody along those lines. The bones of every program's damn near the same. And
Now,
then you
skill
throw in,
specific is different.
skill
Yeah.
specific's different,
Yeah.
but in generating power, being more fit, and staying healthy, a lot of that stuff's the same. And then for the individual, it changes based on what their weaknesses are, or what they need to improve on, and then if they need explosive cardio as part of their.
Well, that's where the
I'm
original.
not having golfers run sprints.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
and that's where the original term of functional training came from before it got perverted by the personal training world.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I remember functional training. We called it functional training because like whatever your function is. So if you're a face-off guy, your function's different than if you're a soccer player. And I remember getting to Reebok Sports Club when I moved to New York City, and they're like, "Oh, functional training." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I've been doing since I got my degree."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, so here's a Bosu ball," and I'm like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" So I was like, "I thought this was functional training. This is looking like sobriety tests." It's like, what are we doing? And it's like, and I get it. Like, it was unspoken rule. You put the housewives over here, and they do their dainty functional training, and then the guys come over here and do arms.
Yeah.
And that's where I really made my mark in the personal training sector there, because women who had been, like, I had a Harvard track captain actually first. I had former athletes, swimmers and stuff, who were like, I'm out, and this was just as CrossFit was becoming popular.
Okay.
So for women, it was like, all right, I can either train like a grandma, or this guy has me doing cleans.
Yeah.
And like, that's where I made my living, and that I got that whole development of people who were like, former athletes who still wanted to train like it.
Yeah.
And that's why CrossFit really took off, because it was like, if I'm an athlete, I know so many former athletes that they get to the CrossFit gym and they're like, "Oh, team lift." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's, you miss team lifts.
It's like
And,
competitive, it's
yeah.
fun.
So I
it's
totally
high
get the
intensity.
allure of it, for sure.
That's where you see the sport come out, because I do CrossFit alone. When I train CrossFit, I was always by myself in terms of in terms of my sport. It was all on my shoulders.
That's
And
right.
then if the team messed up, because it was a team sport, but like I couldn't control what the other people on the team did. I could go out and do what I did. So like my training's by itself. But I always brought that in with my training clients too, because I used to train in a health club, which is not athletes.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's like, try and figure out how you can implement some of this stuff where they can get better and make it fun.
Yeah.
Because that's where CrossFit brings it. It brings a time into it.
Mhm.
So they did it last week. All right, let's see what you can get this week.
Yeah.
Don't let yourself down, and then they can actually work towards it by themselves to come, because they're only seeing you once or twice a week.
Yeah.
So they don't do the work outside of it. It's trying to like add a little bit of disappointment into it, so that they don't want to hit that feeling again.
Oh yeah.
Because that's what it should be. But yeah, no, CrossFit's awesome. I wish I did it earlier.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't do bodybuilding as early as I did, and I did CrossFit, because they still have amazing physiques.
Well, I think, and I tell my wife this because I'm turning 40 this weekend, and I'm like, I'm just, the only downside to my playing lacrosse was I'm as beat up as like an ex-NFL player, but I did it for peanuts.
Yeah.
Like I did it for thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here like, man, like, like I've had 2 knee surgeries, I've had shoulder surgery, I've had foot surgery, I've fractured 5 or 6 different bones, I've had 2 spinal fractures. And like I'm sitting here like at 40 I feel pretty good despite all that.
Yeah.
But at the same time it's like, damn, I would love to go do a CrossFit class. But I have no idea if if my knee's gonna explode.
We got a program around this.
Yeah, and I don't want to do all of that shit. Instead, I just like stick to what I know is going to keep me safe, because you're at a point now where you're like, I just don't have time to be in pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't have time to go force myself into that 3rd or 4th extra rep of cleans to beat my time, and now my back's fucked for 3 days and I can't hold my 2-year-old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
Scale for life a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it sucks because like I've never done that.
What's like
Just
now?
been playing hurt,
Yeah.
for years and years.
Yeah,
Power through it.
And then when you've been hurt for so long, you don't know there's a way you can feel or be or train or play not hurt.
Yeah.
I remember growing through that with my back injury. For years after playing, it had persisted for so long, and I just remember finally getting to a point where I started being able to really heal that on a much deeper level. And
Would you have a spondy or?
it was 2 herniated disc, L4, L5, L5, S1. And I remember thinking, I was like, wow, I actually don't remember being in pain.
Yeah.
I don't remember ever having this feeling. All I remembered was ever being in pain. I didn't even know I could feel this good.
Dude, how
moving
good
again.
did that feel?
Incredible. And in that moment, I was like, all right, if this is how I could feel now, and this is years after my injury, then clearly it can be healed.
Yeah.
And I never have to deal with it again. I can find ways around this to continue to grow and pursue whatever goals I have
Yes.
in a much more aligned, physically, mentally, and emotionally way that'll get me to where I want to go. Healthy, pain-free, and moving well. And I really started to focus on that. And it's kind of really like a staple of not only just our training, but the training that we teach and coach. And you don't even realize, it's interesting working with athletes who've had injuries or coming back from injuries. And recently we've been getting more athletes coming to us because they've been injured and know how we can help them come out of that.
Yes.
It's like, I didn't even know I could feel like this.
I know, because what happens is, one, you get so used to it that you forget how bad you're hurt.
Yeah.
And I tell my athletes now, because I coach so many guys, and I'm like, look, you have no idea how many games I played hurt. Games that I absolutely should not have been playing in. And I thought that I was not letting my teammates down and my coaches down. And there's nothing against them, but no one calls me to see how I'm feeling now.
Yeah.
You know, no one said, hey man, remember when you barely could walk and you just like took a Toradol shot and went out there and crushed it and we won that game? I hope you know what, I'm going to come over and just have dinner with you. No one does that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was having the same thing. I had L3, L4 because I got taught to squat wrong in high school. I got taught to squat on the Smith machine. And then I never got it taken care of. And then my L4, L5 went my freshman year of college. So they got me fitted for a back brace, this neoprene thing that had a sleeve in the back of it to help me be able to play. Didn't fix anything. It just...
Yeah.
And then my lower body workouts at Penn State were all like airball squats and things that weren't loading my spine. And then all the sprinting and stuff that we did outside, I had to do inside by myself, pull sprints, bike sprints, etc., to stay in shape.
Yeah.
You said pool sprint?
Yeah. At Penn State, we had a pool with a harness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man.
Shit was not easy. But it sucked because, you know, remember my senior year, I was a team captain, and the whole team's coming in. You know, those team sprints, like, everyone's dead, you know, but they did it. They got it through it together. And I'm sitting here in the pool like an idiot, you know, and I just feel bad because, you know, but, you know, I went through all this pain. And then I remember during the pandemic, I had just retired in 2019. I'm sitting in my basement every night. You know, it was like Groundhog's Day when we're doing lockdown. So my wife and I would watch a show, and I would just be stretching. I just started doing the stretch routine. I realized that I had neglected my QL and my adductors a lot when I was stretching. And I've always been flexible, but I neglected those.
Yeah.
Go through this whole thing. I do it every single night. All of a sudden, like 2 months in, I get up, and I had the same moment. And I was like, oh my God, my back doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, oh, good, honey. I'm like, no. And I like got emotional. I'm like, you don't understand. I haven't felt like this since I was like 13.
Yeah.
And she was like, holy shit. I was like, I know. And now I'm like, dude, I am not going back to that. Like, there's no way I'm going back to that pain because now I'm getting used to not having that pain, you know?
Well, yeah, you feel like you have to keep training in a way that got you to a certain point, even though your body doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, that's where you get inventive, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me, you know, I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, dude, okay, I get it. I've been doing deadlifts for 25 years. I need some new shit.
Yeah.
So that's where, you know, Todd Giorgi, who owns New York Strong over here, he trained me for the 2018 World Games. And it's a strongman gym. So I've gotten way more into the the kettlebells, the sandbags, and then that Landmine University that Alex created.
Yeah.
God, if Alex had, you know, sorry Alex, but if you had created the system 10 years earlier, I could have avoided a lot of injury.
Yeah.
I could have, because there's no direct spinal loading. But I feel powerful as shit and flexible and strong.
And it's fun from a lot of
and
work.
it's just, it's just
looks
different.
so fun, so different.
Well, that's the tough part about training, right? Like, if I want to be big and powerful and strong, it is tough because everything you're taught is like you have to be a robot in your motions, right?
Yeah.
Don't do this, don't do that. Everything's got to be. But that's not what sports are.
Yeah.
Especially as a face-off guy, everything here, and then you get out, and then guys
You're in
trying
some
to take your head off.
compromising position.
Yeah. And like that's where the landmine comes in because everything is spinal. You know, locomotion, and like you're using your spinal engine to like rotate and twist, and you're like, dude, this is what I should have been doing for years. Yeah.
Because you're so used to supporting your spine just in that one way.
Exactly.
Where it's like now you want to find a way to support it in bad positions, even though they're not bad.
Vulnerable.
Like Jefferson curls, all this kind of stuff is stuff that I put in everybody's thing, that everybody's program now. that I didn't start doing until like 2 or 3 years ago.
Exactly. And you think
But
you're
then you
taught.
hurt your
start-
spine picking up a freaking paper towel off the kitchen floor.
Well, yeah,
That's
I
the only
was
time I've
saying,
ever hurt myself.
Here's the
Because you're
interesting
like,
piece, right? Like, because it's most of those injuries that happen aren't necessarily around actually doing the lift. Because that's when you're braced. That's when you're actually engaged.
Yeah.
And the irony of like you're taking so much time, energy, and effort focusing on stabilizing there. You're doing your body a disservice for any time you're not in that position, which is more often than not, especially when you're playing sports.
You're taught, you have this mindset when you start training that your spine is this piece of glass, when it's one of the most resilient possible things on earth, and it can handle almost anything.
Yeah.
And we treat it with such care. And it's like it's like my parents, right? My parents are like, don't get in trouble, don't get in trouble. Then I get to college and it's like, you're on your own.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
I can train every day.
Yeah.
And I can go to class if I want. That's a slippery slope.
Yeah.
Like, same thing with your spine. It's like it gets introduced to this shit on the field that it was never introduced to when you were training.
Yeah.
So you weren't training it. You were lifting, but you weren't training your spine to be effective on the field.
Train your spine, everything that supports it to be strong in other positions and just straight up and down and perfect. You know what I mean? And it twists and curves and all that stuff. If it wasn't supposed to do that, it wouldn't do that.
It wouldn't be able to.
Yeah, like we weren't made by an idiot. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it's supposed to do that. It's our fault for only training those certain positions.
Yeah.
Which is why golfers break down so fast. And then they only do stuff by like throwing heavy things instead of teaching the body how to stabilize before doing that, and then they just end up hurting themselves.
And
You're right.
one of the biggest things too with the training, it's all about force generation, and there's so much missed around absorption of the force you're generating, because most often, like a lot of the overuse injuries, it comes from not necessarily the production of force, the chronic production of force from something that's been under recovered, which is its own topic, but it's the inverse of that musculature that has to absorb the in range of all that force that you're producing.
That's a great point. Yeah, we always think about the explosive part. We don't think about the actual end part. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It's like when you're generating all that force, something has to decelerate at the end of that shot, at the end of whatever that movement is.
Now, do you think that's why? I mean, I think it's why we have more injuries than we've ever had, because kids are specializing in their sport so early, and they're doing repetitive. So the tread on their tire is wearing down so much earlier than it used to for us. Because like when you played sports, right? Like for me, soccer season, put my cleats on, play soccer. Last game of the season, put my cleats in the lock, and now I put my basketball sneaks on.
Yes.
Right? And then like that's when you played your sports. Now we got kids that are training. Look at face-offs every year, right laborers. Every single year.
Yeah.
And I beg these kids, they'll go out every day, meet up with their friends, and take reps for an hour every day, 2 hours every day. And they they shoot the shit, and they're just facing off. And the problem with face-offs is it's not like shooting a basketball. It's like you're shooting a basketball and someone is forcibly giving you a high five at the end of everyone.
Yeah.
So you're going into somebody else's stick, and every single year, guys don't listen to me, and I get 2, 3, or 4 D1 guys who have to get labrum surgery the fall before their freshman year.
Yeah.
And it's like, it sucks because it's a catch-22. I tell these kids don't do it, but then they see all the kids they're competing with for these scholarships doing the same thing. So then, and that's why we give parents so much shit because they're crazy. They are crazy. But for them, they're like, I don't know what to do. If I push my kid to keep doing the things he wants to do, he's going to end up hurt.
Yeah.
And if I don't, he's going to not be as good as he could be. So where do we, as parents, like, what do we do?
There's a catch-22, and it's get them into the gym earlier, and then offset some of that stuff that they're doing on the field by kind of offsetting it in the gym.
Yeah.
That's doing a lot of rotator cuff, trap 3, other type of movements that support the shoulder, so like we don't get hurt through that motion. And it's with baseball, volleyball,
I think there's some
pretty
other...
much any sport.
Yeah.
Because it's just breakdown over time. And if I knew the things that would fix my knee back when I was a catcher in baseball, I wouldn't have arthritis in both my knees right now, because I would have been doing the things to prevent that from ever happening while I was in it. Maybe I wouldn't have, because it's not flashy and it's not fun. But if you do it, then you don't have to deal with this stuff later. And it sucks when you're 30.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to 40.
I mean, I'm getting better with time, thank God. So hopefully my
Good for
40
you.
is good.
You're like Benjamin Button.
I was told I needed 2 knee replacements by the time I was 30 at 24, so I have said no to that and worked backwards.
Good for you.
Luckily, I got a kick in the ass really early.
Yeah, that'll do it.
There's a whole huge piece of this that is always overlooked, and it's around rest.
Yes.
there is no time for anyone to rest. And with
Everything's all year round now.
yeah, and
Year round.
how many multi-sport athletes play on? Also, you have your high school, your club team, and the high school has another team that's playing out of season,
Yep.
and you're doing not just one, potentially 2 or even more sports all year round.
Yeah.
You're going active. You're in season to go in season to go in season to go in season.
While
To go-
in season's happening in this season.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It happens in just lacrosse. Like, kids are now, club lacrosse has practices while the kids are in spring lacrosse for their high schools.
It's wild.
Give me 1 second. Make
There
sure
you
this
go,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Lance listens to it. You okay, Squish? Yeah, I bet you are. You got goldfish coming out of your ass. You good. Goldfish and cartoons. All right. Yeah, I feel bad for these kids. I think, between the overexertion, I talk about it all the time. Like, I wouldn't have been able to play Division I lacrosse at this point. I wouldn't have been able to afford to train year round. I wouldn't have been able to afford all these tournaments and these showcases that kids are doing.
It's also, how do you even know that you love it that much if you haven't tried everything else as well? You get so singly focused. Like, I played basketball, soccer, baseball, golf. And golf was the one that I didn't like the most, and then I played all of those until it became the thing that I could choose for myself.
You know what? That's a phenomenal point, because all these kids get enamored so early. And I love that a lot of them have the passion, but I feel like a lot of them have the passion to, like, I saw this guy on TV, like on ESPN, or I saw it on Instagram. Like, I want to be that guy because he scored a goal in like the semifinal game, and they become so singularly obsessed with it. And then when you don't quite hit that mark, maybe you end up at a lower D1 or D2 or D3. It's so impossible for them to like wrap their heads around it, because they put everything, all their eggs in that basket. And I sit there and I think about it, like, high school sports for us. I have kids asking me when they're in like 8th grade, like, about recruiting.
Yeah.
And I know lacrosse. I don't know about other sports, but I know lacrosse is that way.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, all we cared about when I played high school lacrosse was beating teams. Like, I wanted to win a
Winning
state
and being with
championship.
my friends.
Yeah. I wanted to win a state championship so bad, like, and that was the only thing we cared about. And along the way, because we worked so hard at it, we got recruited.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it's like these kids barely care. And it's like, my ankle hurt me 3 weeks ago, so I'm going to sit out this game. Or kids just don't show up to practice, and you're just like, whoa, it's wild.
Yeah.
How about now at the college level, where it's basically like another professional level in the sense that you don't see as many people having loyalty to one team. It's like, where can I go to potentially get the best opportunity to win a title? And if it doesn't happen, if they go to another school and then another one, I'm like, I'm not sure, like, how can you get excited about the team aspect of a sport when you're not even there necessarily for the team?
Yeah.
You're there thinking that, maybe because I'm here, I can get this. Well, there's a reason why maybe that's a possibility, that you have to buy into what is there to get there.
Yeah, it's wild, because I'm a habitual non-traditionalist.
Mhm.
Like, for me, it's like, just because things were a way doesn't mean they should keep going that way.
Yeah.
Right? That being said, though, I do miss the 90s and 2000s of college sports, where a kid would be on a team, you recruit him, he'd be on the team, and you're like, for 4 years we're going to develop this kid, he's going to be sick. And now it's totally different, where you're like, this kid, he just signed, I didn't start as a freshman, he's in the portal. You know, and it's like, it's all free agency, everything's about NIL money. I remember Saban was talking about that, and Saban was like, all they want to do is talk about money, and of course, on Instagram and shit, he gets crucified for it.
Yeah.
And I was always one of those people. I remember we had a coaching ethics class that I took during the summer one year, and Russ Rose, who was like a legendary women's volleyball player, we were talking about it. Should players get paid? And I'm like, yes, but say goodbye to college sports.
Yeah.
Like, it is a full-time job. I was like, I have no time for shit. I'm playing this sport, then I'm working out, then I'm studying. This is my life. And, I should, if I'm a football player, not a lacrosse player, we don't make money for the team, for the school, but if I'm a football player bringing in millions of dollars, then I should see at least my jersey sales. Or, like, the college football game. It's like, I should at least get a royalty for that, right?
It should be around the sport, though, and not like social media money.
Well, and that's the thing too, is the social media has completely changed the game. Look at that dude. Who's the dude in the UFL, the kicker now? Destroyer?
Yeah.
Destroying Destroyed?
Yeah,
Destroyed?
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
I don't know what tent you're in, Mr. Destroy, but
Yeah.
whatever.
Yes.
I'm rooting for that dude because
Yeah.
I remember he was told you can either play college sports or you can make money on your own doing your own thing.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need money.
Yeah.
And now he's going to go play in the UFL. I have a friend, Angie Benson, she's actually in the bodybuilding now. She was an unbelievable goalie. And before she got to school, she had built a training business in Florida for goaltending and stuff. And when she went there, they told her straight up, like, you're going to have to sell that before you can come play. And she was like, all right, I'm gonna go for it. And now, we talk about it all the time. She's like basically starting it all over again.
Yeah.
And she's like, for what? What did I get out of that? I got a piece of paper that I'm not even gonna go work in that like realm of like whatever I got.
Yeah.
Like it. And the people should make money, but you also have to accept. Look, college sports will never be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. Semi-pro now, and
Well,
you just got to deal with it.
The only constant is change.
Yeah.
And it's like, instead of trying to fight this change, how can you harmonize it to make it better for everyone
Of
involved?
course. Well, I think it's also proof that the NCAA doesn't give a shit about.
Oh,
That
bad
was
person.
evident
It's
a while
about
ago.
money.
They're like, it's about the kids, and it's about the kids, and then Ed O'Bannon was like, we're going to sue you. And they're like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Do whatever you want. And then every compliance officer's like, are we closed now? And like, they're just like, take them, no rules.
Yeah.
And
Free for all.
they're like, the only thing we know is that you can't get paid for how many completions you have in a game. Other than that, it's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
Good luck. Yeah.
And that was just proof. Like, the NCAA never gave a shit about these kids, because if they did, they would have taken the time to put, like, I would have met with those lawyers and Ed O'Bannon and be like, okay, fine, let's work together to create a webbing so that this actually does benefit. Because I remember, I don't know about you guys, I went to college, we never had a class on, like, here's how to balance your checkbook.
Yeah.
None of it.
Like, or if you're going to get an agent, like, I don't care about a lacrosse player, like, I want to know this stuff.
Yeah.
I graduated college and I was like, I better find some way to train people, because I don't know how to do anything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the very least, these kids should be getting that. Like, my brother, he has a Gurenlian Sports Entertainment. He started NIL, and now he does like all sorts of stuff. He has a lot of pro lacrosse players under his banner, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, one of the things we want to do at his agency is like provide this information to these kids when they come aboard in college.
Yeah.
He's like, because they just get thrown to the wolves. He's like, and you have no idea how many like somebody's uncle or brother is now an agent, and they're just trying to get NIL money. And the crazy thing about NIL money is people don't understand how much content and how much engagement and how many eyeballs need to be on you for you to make any money doing this shit.
Yeah.
Because they think that you have kids that go to college, I was the number 5 recruit in the country, and I want $30,000 to use your bubble gum. It's like,
Yeah.
dog, people are chewing this shit no matter what.
Yeah.
Like, we'll give you some free gum.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, and I don't think there's any understanding at all of like how of your worth. Like, know your worth, both in a good and a bad way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was I think a lot of time, especially as we're growing through life experiences,
Yeah.
we're a lot of time on autopilot reactively based on our ego, and you work hard to get to that point, and then all of a sudden the dynamic shifts. You stop working hard thinking this new version of yourself is going to ride you to where you want to be.
Such
And
a
you're
good
like,
point.
hey, just because I did this in the past, I deserve this now. What are you doing now to take what you did then to continue to grow it?
Yeah.
And that's more of a humbling thing. It's like, well, I just want the money now.
Yeah. That's like if I was like, hey man, I'm a hardworking guy and I'm a good dude. It's like, all right, well, we just had kids. It's like, it's all good. Like, I'm a hardworking good dude. It's like, you still got to change diapers, man. You still got to teach them shit. You know? You can't just rest on your laurels. Yeah, and that's where I get hung up as a coach, because like when it came to face-offs in lacrosse, I experienced what it was like to completely max out your potential in a thing. I knew that no matter what I ever did, I wouldn't ever get better than I was at face-offs. I had maxed out my personal potential. And that doesn't mean I was better than any other person. I just know for me, I hit my ceiling. But that is so gratifying. And I want every kid I coach to feel that way. So, I'll see a kid, I'll be like, look, if you just do this, you do that. And 80% of the time, they'll be like, oh, they like won't listen, right? And it's because they have their own lives and they don't want to screw up or whatever. They think somebody else might know something. And I'm sitting here going, dude, like, so many people want your money. But like, there's not a lot of us who literally just want you to reach your potential.
Yeah.
Because I'm dying for you to see it one day where you're just like, holy shit, this guy was right.
Yeah.
And there's so many kids like that where you're just like, dude. And then that's where I've had to realize it's not personal.
Yeah.
Right? Take your foot off the pedal. Give them the information. If they don't take it, go to the next kid.
Yeah.
And like you just can't take it personal because that's the tough part. It's not. A lot of people want to be good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's fine, and it should be fine. It's not my fight, but I want them to be as good as they could be.
One of the biggest things you said there that I think is it's an easy separation, and we tend to think of, like you said, my personal potential.
Yeah.
People see someone else's potential and try to make it their own. Not
Yeah.
that you don't use that as a guiding direction to find out where your potential lies in relation to that.
Yes.
But it's like, all right, now I'm going to do that, I'm going to be like that, and they try to own that persona, and you create this dissonance within yourself.
Yeah.
And now it's like when you're trying to help someone see their own potential, they've clouded the ability to see their own potential because they're only looking through the lens of, is this potential matching that person?
You're absolutely right. I never remember. Like I remember when I first started playing lacrosse because when I was in college, I was still new to it. So when it came to face-off stuff, being just a face-off guy was not something I was used to.
Yeah.
So I just remember like studying different guys. Like Georgetown had a player named Andy Corno, and I just remember like I'm literally learning the basics as like a sophomore in college. And I'm like, okay, and I'm like, seeing, okay, why is he doing that? Okay, but like I don't ever remember being like, I got to beat that guy, or that's how good I want to be one day, or there was no measuring stick for me. It was literally, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was studying biomechanics.
Yes.
And I was a kinesiology major. So for me, it was just like a clean and jerk. It has nothing to do with how much weight you did.
Yeah.
For me, if I apply this to this, then I will be more efficient at this. And it was always an obsession about my own efficiency.
Being
Yes.
rooted in
Yeah.
fitness makes your mindset. It gives you like such a head start on everybody else.
Yes.
Because you're only trying to maximize your own potential. That's the only thing that you possibly can do,
Yeah.
right? Because you're given a
It's
set
calming too.
You're given a set of tools. Like
Yeah.
I can't look like somebody else. I have different genetics than somebody else, but I can maximize how I can look to be the best I possibly can be.
100%.
And that's how fitness roots you in a different way. And there's no fucking shortcuts, man. There's zero
No,
shortcuts.
there's not.
It's like, do you eat right? Do you work out as hard as you possibly can? Then do you take the supplements and things like that to add on top of it maybe the 1%
Yeah.
that'll give you, and then there's no way around it.
Yeah,
There's
you can't fake it. And that's
even steroids don't give you a
No,
benefit
because
like
you
people
still gotta
say,
go
'cause
do
you
the
gotta
work.
work harder
Yeah.
than everybody else to do it and have great genetics on top of that for
Yeah.
them to work well.
Yeah.
It's like,
And the other thing too, and that's why I gained. Golf is very similar. You can't just show up and be good at golf. Like the thing that I noticed about lacrosse which was so humbling at first, was like, holy crap, I'm a great athlete. I can't catch the ball.
Yeah.
I can't cradle it. I'm literally a worthless idiot out here.
yeah,
And that's what I love about lacrosse is it doesn't matter what size. Like if you're 6'8" and you're just born that way, you can play basketball somewhere. You can barely have to dribble. It's got to
Yeah.
turn and do shit.
Yeah.
But if you play lacrosse, you have to put the hours in until the lacrosse stick is an extension of your body, or else you're completely worthless. That's the value I had in it, and you had to put in that time. But what was really crazy for me was I started as a strength coach, and when I got drafted into Major League Lacrosse, I just played it on weekends
yeah.
because that was like my secondary thing. My focus was to be a strength coach, and then when I blew my knee out in 2011. That was the first time where I was sitting on the couch and I'm watching the Lizards play a game without me, and I was sitting there like, holy shit, I got really good at this. I worked so hard at this, but I really took my foot off the pedal because I was so focused on my training business that was the first time I felt guilty that I wasn't applying everything that I could to something. So that was the summer that I wrote the Face Off Academy training program. I applied. I was like, okay, biomechanics. That's the thing about Face Offs. It's consistent. It's always to the right. Right? You're always lined up the same way. So there's really little deviation out of that. Then it's just about doing everything, angular momentum, all that stuff. So I applied it, and then we went and ran a clinic, and our kids were just starting to kick shit everybody. And then that season after I came back, I blew my personal best records out of the water. I was like, holy shit, why wasn't I doing this before?
Yeah.
But that was the first time. Anybody who ever tried to teach me face-off stuff before that was always trying to teach me how to cheat. Oh. Take the ends of your fingers so the ref can't see you grab the ball, or like grab the guy's stick and then like tuck it. And you're like, what are you talking about, you freaking loser?
You'll
Like-
appreciate this. So I played at LSM, and in college I did like the man down face-offs and stuff. So I would spend a lot of our time doing all the face-off work, and the only way that coaches said when I was at Robert Morris, like, if you want a chance to see the field, like the best opportunity is to add more value to what you're doing now, and it would be doing this. I was like, I don't know much. I'm excited to learn.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things. So my friend was always like, all right, you got to be aware of people doing X, Y, and Z. I'm like, but I'm taking this face off. We're already man down. My only job is to beat your ass.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. I'm not like, okay, this is great. I'm going to break your fingers. I don't care.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, everything was grab a stick and cheat. So when we started coming along, we're like, we're going to teach you how to do this without cheating. People were like, and we were met with disdain by the people that were trying to teach face-offs before us, and it was hilarious. But that's the thing about everything that we learned. From 2012 on was all about finding counts, and it's like if you just applied that from the beginning, it would have been easier. And I think one of the slippery slopes for us, like you just said, is sometimes you can really get comfortable.
Yeah.
And getting comfortable really is a way to not reach your potential.
Yeah.
Move backwards and be comfortable.
Yeah.
It was like the only constant change. Being comfortable is good as long as you can be. I like to say content. You can be content, still moving in a direction that you want to be.
Yeah.
Is the moment you're comfortable, you allow that state to persist. The only trajectory is going to consistent change. It will then start to
100%.
go the opposite direction.
Nothing stays the same.
Yeah. I think one of the things that you had subtly alluded to too was the amount of fun you had in discovering your own potential and trying new and different ways from all the things that you were learning and applying it to yourself. You're like, whoa, that was really cool. That worked really well. That didn't work quite as well as I thought, but I see now how I can maximize this.
And it's interesting because I do have, like, when I look back, I had regrets in my career because I'm like, I didn't take the time to get to know as many guys as I could have. I didn't take the time to enjoy, like, playing.
Yeah.
Because once you start getting, it's like when you play Call of Duty. At first, the first time you play Call of Duty, you're like, I suck. Then you start getting good, and then you start throwing your controller. Right? So I became so obsessed with being perfect. I would have games where I would win 31 out of 35 face-offs, and as soon as I got home, I would watch every face-off, and I would look at the 4 that I lost. How did I lose those? Like, what was I thinking? Like, and I became so obsessed that there was like a 4 or 5 year period where I literally had no fun playing lacrosse.
Yeah.
So, I do tell guys, like, there is an important value in looking back and being happy about how far you've come. You've got to glance backwards once in a while and be like, holy shit. Like, I've only been playing lacrosse for 8 years, Like, and at no point did I do that my whole career. And I think, it's very, very valuable lesson to take a look at your chart once in a while and just see how far you've come to, like, be happy about that.
Yeah.
Because if you never take a second to enjoy those small victories along the way, then it's literally just a joyless ride. And then next thing you know, you're retired.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I should have enjoyed it more. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that. I will never forget, this was my realization of that moment. And it was actually, like, with the Beast Bus. One of my friends was asking me, he's like, Stu, now that you got, like, the Beast Bus, like, what's next? He's like, oh, like, I really want to, I'm excited to have, like, a gym and, like, I have X, Y, and Z. He's like, you have a gym. And in that very moment, I was like, I literally spent a year drawing this on a whiteboard, which I still have, that original drawing. I never erased it. Got it. The moment I got it, I was immediately on to next.
Mm-hmm.
And there was like I'm sure everybody's heard this saying, it's like, never satisfied, always hungry.
Yeah.
And I had thought that was a great way of going about it until you realize that your brain literally listens to everything you say. So when you say, I am never satisfied, you will never be satisfied.
Yeah.
I am always hungry, always trying to do more, I'm always going to be doing that.
Yeah. And
And
what
then you
happens
get
is
caught
if you're
in-
always looking towards the next meal, you don't enjoy the one you're eating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're not fully engaged in the next meal because you're still
Yeah.
full from the last one.
Yeah.
And it's just
Yeah.
like, and it's, I think it's, I'm a very dopaminergic person.
Oh, yep.
And like, I'm constantly like, we finished this garage and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome.
Where's the next,
Shit, like, now we got to build a shed. It's just like,
where's the next hit?
yeah, and that's where, like for me, I've learned with social media is now with social media, I post my content and I shut it down. I'm completely off Twitter. Twitter is a biohazard
I don't
wasteland
have
now.
that.
I don't give a shit what anybody has to say about anything anymore. I just post and I move on, because for those of us who have that dopamine, driven life, you're constantly looking for the next post, the next comment, the next how many likes did it get, and I'm like, dude, I'm out. Like I don't care anymore.
I had this conversation with Nick about the podcast. I was like, for a year, we're just going to make a promise to ourselves that we don't care what it does. We're going to put the videos up. We're not even going to look at the
Love it.
statistics.
Yeah.
It's great.
I don't care.
It's like
It's at a point where it's just like, I just want to get the message out and talk to cool people.
Yeah.
Let's just do that, and then we win either way.
And then
That's
what'll
our-
happen is over time, people will guide you, whether they mean to or not, in the direction that you should be going.
Yep.
yeah.
Right? If you're getting a lot of people just like, yo, you guys should do this, or, whatever. You guys should make these a little bit more, out in the wilderness or whatever. Like, things will happen where it'll start to, but I love that rule, because right now it's important to enjoy it. Because
It's so
it's
discouraged so
not
fast
about
with
the fun.
social media, because it is just a dopamine hit every
Yeah.
once in a while, and then like you have a good one, and then nothing's ever as good as that good post again.
Yeah.
So then you feel
Yeah.
discouraged. You get like one with 900 likes, and then all the rest of them are like 50, and you're just like,
It's
why can't
interesting
I?
because
Yeah.
like usually it's the one that you had no intention
Oh, it's
of
just the
that
least amount
catches
of
off.
one. Yeah.
Then you hyper focus on how you can recreate it from a place of like I hadn't done that before, and you're like missing out on people were just resonating with your authentic
Exactly.
experience.
Dude, just
in
be
that
genuine,
moment.
because by the way, it's all a bot-filled mess anyway.
Yeah,
It's like,
Yeah.
dude, I don't need like 2,000 followers a month, because I'm like, he blah 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 with no followers
Yeah.
from like I don't
Random letters.
Yeah, it's just a bunch of
this
shit, and like there's so much spam and so much like. Have you guys got on Threads yet?
Yeah.
You get accosted by OnlyFans bots the second you show
Yeah,
up.
Yeah.
As soon as it's like all these follows, it's like click here, click here, click here. You're just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Yeah. No, it's
How did you get on my feed?
I've never scrolled Threads, but I'll put because I don't have Twitter, so I'll put like thought on Threads and I just leave
Yeah,
it.
then leave it
Because
there.
then you
That's
can
the
post
safe way
you
to
can
go.
post it to Instagram, so it's an easy piece
Yes,
of content for Instagram.
that's what I like about it.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I was like, this brings up a very interesting thing around like being so hyper focused on those numbers, like or a thing on social media. It was an interesting inverse effect, where it's like with my girlfriend Haley for USA, a lot of what they
Shout out, what's up, Haley?
Love and miss you. Can't wait to see you later. LFGOTT, let's go!
Oh my God!
Woo! Yeah. Anyway, we're ready for the game tonight. But she would wear this like monitor, and like be focused on like, all right, I need to be in this threshold, like based on everybody else and this and that. And I'm like, all right. And we would go through our training, and she would be looking at it. I was like, well, my heart rate's not getting to a certain threshold, and I was like, maybe because you've been improving.
Yeah, maybe because you're getting in better shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're so worried about this number. Now that you're creating anxiety around this number,
Yeah.
you see your heart rate going up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was funny because she had gotten out to the Beast Bus one day, and we had a conversation prior about that. And so, all right, when you come out today, we're going to talk about a new strategy around this. And so she had them on, everything on, and she sees me, and I look at her, and she's like, "Oh, I brought." I was like, "Oh, I know." That response, like, immediately, heart rate goes up, and like measure, like, and I was like, "This is exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah.
What happened? Nothing."
Yeah.
And the thought of what could potentially happen around what I might say next,
Yeah.
around this exact experience with you wearing a monitor, brought the monitor.
It's like complaining that you're not falling down when you skate when you learn
Yeah.
how to skate.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like, why am I falling? I must not be going hard enough.
I was like, listen, like, there's one way to understand the purpose of these numbers.
Yeah.
You don't just focus on numbers if you're not
Use them as a
understanding-
supplement. Like use them
Yeah.
as an extension of what we're doing.
It's supposed
To
to
help you
teach
take a
you
look
and
at it.
guide you in a direction that you're
Yeah.
going, and give you something tangible that you can at least look back on to make changes based on where you're going.
Sure.
And it's like with the scale, right? Everybody's like, oh, I'm only like I gotta worry about this number. How are you feeling? Hey, muscle weighs more than fat. You don't even realize the composition
Yeah.
changes on every level, but you just see, I didn't lose a pound.
Dude, I used to tell my, and I feel bad. The female clients, I understand the pressure and stuff.
Yeah.
I used to tell them, if I'm like, you look exactly, your body is exactly like Heidi Klum's now, but you weigh 600 pounds. Would you give a shit?
Yeah.
No. And that's like, and that's the thing is they have to understand. And it's funny. Somebody actually posted today. It was a female bodybuilder, and she looked shredded. She looks awesome. She's like, yeah, my doctor said today that I'm overweight. And it's like, yeah, if you're still going by BMI, you need to get a doctor.
Right.
Morbidly,
Exactly.
Morbidly obese was
Yes,
the last
morbidly
time I
obese.
was
Yeah. I remember that. I was like,
Yeah.
you mean obese? You mean a beast? I'm a beast. How am I obese? I'm a beast. There's
Yeah.
no way.
Last time I was at the doctor, I'm sitting in my skivvies, I have abs, I'm like 2 or 3 weeks out from a show, so like veins everywhere, and they go, have you been stressing? They're like, you're severely overweight. And I was like, this is the best shape I've ever been in.
With a tear rolling down.
Yeah. All right. I know you gotta go pick up, but thanks for letting us come to the Beast Lab, man. This is an awesome setup.
amazing.
Nick, you want to run to my car and grab a set of the bands out of that big duffel bag?
Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it, boys.
Oh man, this was so much
This
fun.
is awesome.
You can't
Where are
be
you
with
guys,
the Beast without having Beast bands.
Where are you guys headed next?
So
You're
we're
up, right?
going to Connecticut, Bridgeport. They play. Ottawa's playing New York there tonight.
Awesome.